Have you ever felt like you're going nowhere? You haven't got much money to splurge? You're continuing a downward spiral into financial devastation? Well, today is your lucky day. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you have a full-time job, you can afford to buy a house. Don't be scared or disheartened if you can't buy in your area, as it could be out of your price range. But if you look around in other areas, you will find your first investment. Welcome to Real Estate Investing 101. Today's video, we will look at how to build a house deposit from scratch, what saving accounts you should have for prosperity, including investing in stocks and so much more. Look at the basics of mortgage broking, how to get your lending, and all the basic approaches to buying a house. And then finally, some strategies you can look at for long-term success in real estate investing. Well, you might be thinking, how do we start if we've got no money? It's time to start save. Yes, indeed. Even if you have kids, you just have to be smarter with your savings and spend less on expenses where you can. As of course, your kids, especially babies, need like nappies and baby formula. An iPhone? Oh, just kidding. So, what can you do to save for your first deposit? First thing you gotta do is a budget, which includes food, including noodles, rice, cheap soft drinks, not financial advice or health advice. You can always find cheap fruits and stuff to buy as well, whatever's in season. You can be healthy and do the same thing. Might be a little bit more expensive than the real cheap stuff, but you can be healthy as well. So here are some examples where you can cut your expenses. So instead of dining out, you can eat your own food at home. You can also slash your either Netflix or Disney Plus and listen and watch audio books or YouTube or your free TV. Or go outside and do some exercise, go for a walk. This is always to keep that money going up and also improving your health. Why not? And first and foremost, if you got a credit card, pay it off. Paying that a ridiculously high 20% a month or whatever it is, crazy stuff. And interest is just one way to go to financial ruin. Any higher purchase as well. A student loan, if you're paying interest on it, some countries you don't pay interest, so maybe you don't have to pay that off straight away. But it's good to just get most of that debt off your books, which would be good for you to buy a house. Because people like to see your credit, being able to pay it off every month is very good for you for your loans. Because obviously if you have a big interest you're still paying off on your credit card, it will be no good when you go to the bank to try and get your first deposit. Instead of driving your car to work with the petrol prices skyrocketing, why don't you look walking, biking, catching a bus or train to work? You can also look at making your own cake at home instead of spending the expensive, overpriced Cheesecake Factory delicious cake. Make your own and save at least half of your money, if not more, with just making it at home. In some countries, you can use your retirement funds to purchase your first house. So do some research if your country allows that. Some countries allow it just on your first house that you're going to live in. Some do it in your investment. Just got to check out what's available to you. You can find loans as well. Like you could find one state or one part of the country, you can get loans up to a certain amount to help get you into your first house. So check that all out. So now what do we do once we have found that we have cut all our costs? We've got extra moolah coming in. What can we do? Well, this is the time to create your savings account. So first, we have house deposit. Second, we have emergency fund. Thirdly, we have business. And fourth, we have an account for investments. So let's first look at house deposit. So for example, say you got 1 year. In 1 year's time, you want to buy your first house. You need a deposit of $50,000. So how much do you need to save? You need to save $962 a week. What? Barry, you're crazy. There's no way I can save that much. Yes, you can. Get off your couch and your Netflix subscription and find other ways to make yourself some money. So this leads to an emergency fund. First off, get yourself saved up with some emergency money so you can use when absolutely necessary. Unreliable, like something like your car, your motor breaks down, you can pay for that. Or if something like the dentist bill, the unexpected, or some medical bills that come up, if you've got this big emergency fund stacked up, which has like, for a start, like you can just get a few thousand to start off with. And the more you can get, the more percentage you can get. If you can get up to a year eventually, depending on your salary, it'd be very, very good for you in the long term just to have that sitting there, just in case for any rainy day. Which also is lovely. If you lose your job, you've got some money there just to keep you ticking over until you find your next job, if it takes you a little while to find one. You can start a new part-time job. Just get a night job, whatever you need to do to make yourself a little bit extra money. Which also goes into, if you can't do that, go into the business side of things. Be creative. You can start a lemonade stand, start your own YouTube channel, start a side business in your speciality. You could go like onto Amazon and sell stuff for Amazon. You can also sell clothing, bake cakes, you can do lawns, gardening services. Find something you're passionate about and find a business model that works for you. Yes, you. And obviously the last savings account stability is investing. Find something that you are passionate about and a business model that works for you. Yes, you. Last but not least, your final savings is for investing in cryptos and stocks. There are so many ways to invest, but if you want a totally passive income source, which means you just buy and set and forget, then you can look at going into ETFs or index funds, VTI. So for example, VTI, a Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF, which follows the US market, and you can expect on average to get about 10% a year for the rest of your life. Yahoo! Another strategy can be in dividend growth investing, which includes Apple, Domino's Pizza, Microsoft, which all pay you a quarterly dividend. Sometimes it can be biannually, it can be monthly, just depending on which dividend stock you buy. But the main aim is that you can reinvest into either the same stock, or what I like to do, whatever stock is on special, buy. Not financial advice, which I don't recommend this part, but you can, if you making a profit, you can take those profits and use it for your first house deposit. It's not something I would like to do, but if it's your way of making money quickly and using it on your first house, then good for you. And the good thing about buying a dividend stock that is growing, you can also get capital appreciation as well, which on some older dividend stocks you don't get much, like Coca-Cola for example. It's very slowly, if anything, making you much money these days on the capital appreciation side. As I expressed before, there are plenty of ways and strategies to look at when you're buying cryptos or stocks. If you really want to take the money and time and energy to find real value in stocks and crypto, you might want to take on the Warren Buffett approach. You need to start reading financial reports. Read 10K reports that they do quarterly, which tells you everything you need to know about the company you're looking to invest into and how they're going currently and what their future endeavors are. And then if you predetermine where you think there's a value play, you could 2x, 5x, 10x your stock. Wouldn't that be amazing? Or you could be very lucky here and blindly just go into some NFTs and hope it shoots to the moon, like the Bored Apes. Woohoo! Not financial advice. Now, what do you do once you've done all the savings and cut expenses out of your life? Well, real estate investing 101, we need to go to the bank or a mortgage broker or lender and find the best lender for you, whether that's a bank or a private company, depending on the situation. You've got to have very good interest rate though, ideally. You don't just want to go with one company and it's paying you like 6% or something random because it's a peer-to-peer loan or something like that. You just got to be careful. You ideally want to get with the banks, even if you have to wait a little while and do some better savings. I suggest go with a bank. You're lucky these days, and most of the time if you go through like a mortgage broker or lender, they do most of the work for you. You just give them a bit of information and they'll take it to the banks and come back to you with the best offer, or you'd hope the best offer. It's not always the case. Sometimes the mortgage broker will go to the certain people because they get a better kickback from that particular bank. So just be careful out there. If you get a very good interest rate, you shouldn't really be complaining. So if you get accepted, you generally get a pre-approved loan to a certain amount, and that could be like 500,000. So you go looking for a house in the $500,000 range, which the banks predetermine what you can pay. In the worst case scenario, what your worst case you can afford to pay the interest back on your loan. So you start looking for a house, and you find a house that might be, say, $495K, for example. Then you realize there sometimes can be some more hidden costs. Oh, you got to buy a building report. Look for a rental appraisal if you're going to rent it out. Then you got lawyers' fees. Once you bought your home, you got to be really ready to pay the weekly or fortnightly home loan fees once the home loan is sorted. This can be a lengthy process, and if you do it at certain times of the year, it can take longer. If you're doing something around Christmas, you can have like your lawyer could be away for 3 weeks, a month, and that just drags out you buying your house. So there's just some things to be wary of. If you're building, it takes even longer. You got to wait for resource consents, and there can be things that come up that you don't expect, like the ground being too soft, so you have to do extra piling, and they can all add up, and there might be like a few extra switches you want in the house that you didn't realize, and they cost you more of an arm and a leg because you've already agreed to a floor plan. So there's just stuff. Make sure everything, if you're building a house, make sure everything in your floor plan is already done. If you want extra switches, make sure it's all in the pre-price plan, because they really do rip you off if you do it later. They give you fees, extra fees they add on top. It's not nice, but that's just the way the business goes. There's a lot of markup, so just be careful when you're looking at building. What are some options here when you're buying your first house? Well, especially if you're young, don't even have to be young to be fair. If you can still live with your parents or whoever you're living with, even rent out your property. So you're actually making some decent money, or get a boarder in while you're living there and make some money. And make the money so you can pay off the house quicker, or save up for another deposit for another house, depending on how you want to do it. And really, it just snowballs over time. If you really are renting out these properties, you can buy another one, and another one, and another one, and then cha-ching, your grant card in. Ideally, when you're getting this loan, hopefully you can get some cash flow positive, especially renting wise. If you get the cash flow positive and say you're getting like 5% back a year or more, ideally a lot more, but in the current skyrocketing prices some places in the world, you can barely get any, and sometimes negative yields. So just something to look at. But if you can get positive cash flow each time you invest into another rental, it just adds up, and the equity just will build up and build up and build up. So some people will say they don't like debt, but when it comes to real estate, debt is your friend. If you can get it down nice and low, and let people just keep paying off your houses, and you're not putting a cent into it apart from deposits, well done. And as I said before, if you have a little bit of money left over, you can also, ideally you have to have this all in your figures, that you have to pay for maintenance on the house. If you get someone to do your rentals for you instead of yourself, and they take a 5% to 10% on your weekly income, rental money. Just something to think about when you're investing into this. You've got to get the right person involved to make sure they're looking after your house. If it's not you looking after the house, doing the inspections and everything, just make sure you have this all sorted. And be ready when your interest rate's about to turn over. You can do a big lump sum right there when it's due. Boom! That brings down your price for your interest, and away you go. Or if you don't want to pay the lump sum, you can have it all there ready to use to buy another house, or you can invest that money if you want to into businesses, or into the stock or crypto market and NFTs. So really, it's up to you what you do with that money, that extra money you get from real estate. I suggest just keep on getting that money up so you can just buy more and more houses. Make it a business, have your own other side businesses, you have your investing going there, and then you just have this stream of income coming from everywhere, and then you're a real estate mogul. That's where you want to head to. It doesn't matter how much money you got. You can do it. Even if you start small, you can work your way up and up and up. And then one day, you'll have so many rentals that you'll laugh away. And ideally, you want to get more into getting to bigger and bigger units if you can. If you can buy like 10 unit blocks, if you can buy a whole pile of apartments, you really start building up that wealth. And then you get to places that have 100 units. This is the sort of stuff you start retiring on. And you also, if you're if you're a bit of a builder yourself and you can fix stuff real easily, you can flip houses, and that's a good way to make a lot of money. Say you buy a house for 150k, you put 50k into it, and now it's worth 250k. You just made 50k. Okay, stuff like that. And if you just keep doing that, it just snowballs and snowballs and snowballs. Obviously, in some places you got to watch out for capital gains tax, so that's a little bit of a problem with flipping. But this is stuff you got to look at. You know, if you want to get ahead, you got to do the work. Remember that, kid, and find what your niche is, what you know, what in your own circle of competence. You learn stuff along the way, what suits you. If you're no good at building, I don't suggest flipping at all, because if you get someone else to do it, it'll cost you double what it should, and then you barely be making any money at the other end. So that flipping is more good if you're a do-it-yourself sort of type. Doesn't mean it's impossible to pay someone, but you're probably paying double what you would if you were doing it yourself. So really, it's probably not really worth it. So that's the problem with flipping. But if it's a bigger scale, if you're looking at real big houses, then that'll be worth it. What else? And just be careful also what you do. Now, putting a swimming pool in doesn't necessarily give you a lot more money. Some places around the world, in the real rich places, yes, and like the US, they love swimming pools, but in other places, it can actually bring your costs down, because people don't want to do the maintenance. So it's a bit of a pros and cons here. But obviously, kitchen and bathroom are very key. Even a lounge can be. But yeah, you gotta make sure it's nice and inviting if you're gonna do any sort of renovations. So this was just a little brief example into real estate 101. So hopefully you got enough out of this video so you can start doing your own research and to look into buying into real estate if you haven't already, or start buying your own rental properties that keep bringing in some cash flow for you. I hope you got some food for thought also on how to invest in like businesses and stocks and that to help you improve your empire into the real estate mogul you can be. I wish you all well. If you can remember to smash the high five on the like button so your first deposit just comes out of thin air like that. Woohoo! Or your next rental just comes popping out of nowhere. And subscribe to the channel so we can get our new house as soon as possible in 2022. Thank you so much for checking out my video. Take care, and I'll see you at the next video, my friend.